Jackie, welcome to the cave.
Thank you, Elias. I'm so excited to be here. This is awesome.
How's your day? What's going on with you?
Pretty relaxed. It's kind of gloomy here in LA, and I'm just, hanging with my
Yeah.
dogs.
So you got a movie coming out on Friday though.
I
We'll talk
do.
about that. Yeah. You've done a lot of projects, but you got the movie coming out on Lifetime, Party from Hell, and but one of the first things I like to ask my guests is like, how did you like fall in love with acting? What made you get into it?
Well, I've always wanted to actually be a director.
Really?
Yeah, since I was like a little kid, that's kind of the job that I always said I wanted to do was be a movie director. And I just, when I was in New York, I moved to New York City when I left New Jersey. I left after high school, and I just thought modeling, then acting, and then eventually directing. And that was kind of always the trajectory I
Wow.
wanted to follow. But I loved acting because of the fact that I felt like it was very therapeutic for me. And, I've always been a kind of a shy person, and I feel like acting is a way to like express yourself.
How
And
did you break out from like not being shy, like when you're on stage or like when you first started acting?
well, I think modeling definitely helped, but I was very shy when I first started modeling too, and I would just kind of look like a deer in the headlights when I was on camera in the beginning, and then I just got more comfortable with it. I think anything, it's just like the amount of times you
Yeah.
do it, it gets easier. But there's always that little bit of like, don't mess up. It's always a little bit nerve wracking. But
How old were you? Where you kind of had an idea that's the path you wanted to take?
I think probably like high school, I would say, but I wasn't like big into musical theater in high school or anything. I was never really selected for for those plays. I was always like person number one. You know, but
Did
yeah.
you like was there any like specific movies that kind of pushed you more towards this, or like actor or actress that you followed?
Well, I remember watching when I was younger, I watched Donnie Darko, and I loved Donnie Darko. And I thought, oh, it was such a cool movie. And it was just so mysterious. And I really loved Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I thought that was very inspiring to me. So I liked, kind of the indie films, that kind of genre really inspired me. And I thought, wow, I want to do a movie like
Mm.
that. That would be incredible.
When did you make your first big move to LA? Because you said you grew up in Jersey, you did your little New York, and then right after LA, what made you go towards there, and how long you been there for now?
Well, I had a very, those moments in your life where someone says something to you and it's just like a light bulb
Mm.
moment. I was in New York, and it was actually a movie premiere, and a friend of mine who's a producer kind of just bluntly said to me, if you want to do finance, you live in New York City. If you want to
Mm.
act, you go to LA. He's like, you're not really pursuing this to its fullest if you don't go to LA. And I
Mm.
think, growing up with my entire family basically being on the East Coast, it's a very scary thing to do that. And I remember packing up my car, and I packed up my car, and I remember thinking like, this is it. I'm just going to do it. And it was just like a friend of mine was also moving, and
Uh,
I got on their flight, did the whole thing, and I just did it. So it's definitely
what did,
intimidating at first.
what did your family think about all that, and what was their reaction like when you first told them, like, "Yep, I'm moving to LA. I'm going to pursue acting, directing." And how much time did you give yourself before you were like, "All right, maybe I'll move back if it doesn't work out"? Or
I don't really think like that. I just kind of feel that things happen for a reason. I've always had that kind of mentality. And I think that they know me well enough to know that nothing that anyone says really stops me
mm,
from following through with what I want to do. Not in a negative way, but just like I am very focused when I want to do something, I go for it. And they kind of knew that there wasn't much they could do to prevent me from going to LA. I just really wanted to try it.
What was one of the first things you worked on when you moved out to LA?
The first thing I worked on was this movie called 100 Ghost Street, and it's this kind of paranormal activity type movie, and we shot it in Linda Vista Hospital, which is like a haunted hospital. I actually think, yeah, it was really creepy. I think they actually tore down the part of the building that we were in because of, well, hopefully not asbestos or something like that. But it was, we were in like the basement, and it was a very small cast. I think there was like 6 of us, and that was my first lead role. And it was produced by the Asylum, who did Sharknado.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So when I was doing a little more research on you, I noticed, you've done some, many Lifetime movies, but you've also done like guest stars, like in Barry or Odd Couple. Like, what's been like some of your favorite projects you've worked on for like those TV shows?
Well, I think the most challenging and also the most fun was Odd Couple, because it's shot in front of a live studio audience. So that was something I'd never done before. Like, I've done comedy and like improv on stage with, a live audience, obviously, but performing where it's being filmed, it's a whole different thing. And the audience is really reacting to each line, and it's terrifying. But I mean, that was definitely the most fun, just because I felt like I did that. It's like, you don't get many shots to nail it up there.
Plus you get to work with Matthew Perry.
Yeah, and it was his birthday. I remember. I think we had we all sang happy birthday to him that day. It was very nice.
I was actually bummed that show got canceled, because I liked that show.
You did? Oh,
yeah. I thought it was funny.
I know. It's sad when like shows that you really, really like, they're like, we're done.
How many episodes did you do for that show? Do you remember?
I just did one.
Did one.
Yeah.
And how did you get involved with like the Lifetime movies? Because it seems like I had past guests on, like once they started working on those movies, they just like doing them, because it's like you go to work for like 2-3 weeks to film a movie, and then they go off to the next project.
Yeah, it's great. It's like a quick turnaround, and the scripts are fun. And I've gotten to play like some very, very cool characters, and just they're good scripts, and they're people love them. And I mean, I'm always grateful to work. Anytime I get an opportunity to act, I'll take it. But within reason, obviously. But with these, it's like you get to play characters that you don't always have the luxury of playing. I mean, it's just been really, really amazing, the opportunities that it's given me.
Well, you mentioned the characters you play, like the new movie you got coming out. You kind of looks like you're playing a little crazy person in there.
A little crazy, right? Yeah.
For what I can see on the trailer. So let's talk about Party of Hell. How exciting was this project for you, and like how would you describe this movie to somebody?
I think I attacked like 7 people in the trailer alone. So like, it's definitely the first villain role I've ever played. It was some friends that I had worked with previously, and they were like, Jackie, this is a different kind of role. Would you be open to playing this? And I was like, yes, this sounds so fun. And I read the script, and it was like, Molly is diabolical. I mean, she's so fun, and I loved her perspective. I mean, it was like, everyone loves a good revenge story. I can't give too much away, but that you've been burned by someone or something, and you're just like,
What was the audition process for this? Now, did you is that who you went for right away? Was it Molly, or was it somebody else at first?
They actually offered me the role. I'm very grateful for, but it was a direct offer, which is really cool, because it was the first villain I've ever played, like true villain. And it was kind of a risk for them to have me do it.
It's somebody that you've worked with before, I assume, and that's why they gave you the call too.
Well, yeah, Jared Cohen, who directed it, we worked on a few movies together. We did this movie in Pensacola, Florida, called Atlantic Rim. And Atlantic Rim has kind of become almost, I don't want to, I don't like saying cult classic about a movie I've been in, but it's like become its own thing because it was on Mystery Science Theater and it was chosen for that. So we worked together before on a few things, and I think he knew that it would be a challenge for me to do this role, but he was like, let's see what you got. So
how would you describe Molly? Like, and how do you prepare to play this type of role also, since you haven't really done it yet?
Well, I think, the trick with playing a villain is like, they don't ever believe they're the bad guy in their story. And so you have to find the real connection between yourself and the character. And, obviously she's a killer and that's not something I would ever do or understand. But, we all understand feelings of hurt or being betrayed or feeling like someone, really bullied us or, made us feel really bad about ourselves. So if you can understand those kind of feelings, then you just heighten it, I think, and look at someone like Molly who takes that to an extreme. So it's just about finding like the real human elements of a character, I think.
From the trailer, you're a bad person. You looks like you poisoned Eric Roberts.
Looks like it, right? I don't know. Did you make it? We'll have to see. I've done so many movies with Eric Roberts. I've done I think 5 or 6. I'm not sure. We have the same agent too.
Well, what do you think was the biggest challenge playing this character, since you haven't done it before?
I think the biggest challenge is definitely understanding, the mind of someone like Molly or a killer. It's like what makes a person a sociopath? I mean, it's like, you don't want to judge your character ever. You always want to have empathy for them, but it's more difficult when the person is, doing horrible things. It's like, you can't really understand that mentality. So you have to kind of find a way around it.
You mentioned you've worked with Eric Roberts before. How was it working with him on this movie and then with Jennifer Field also?
Oh, Eric is wonderful. I mean, he's always like so kind and just very down to earth. And, I always tell him, I'm like, I love Star 80. Star 80 is one of his best performances ever. And he loves to talk about that. And, I think he's a legend. It's so cool to work with him. It's an honor. And Jennifer was so sweet and down to earth. And I know she just had a new movie on Tubi come out. I think it's Swim. Yeah, Jared actually directed that too.
So you guys have like a little click going on.
Yeah, it's like a little, it's like the independent film world is kind of like a little family.
Yeah.
We all know each other.
Now, was this filmed how long ago was this filmed, and like what were the protocols with COVID and everything, and like how did that with the whole filming out, like give us a little process about how that happened?
Well, it was definitely during COVID, but it was, I believe, the fall of last year. And so we're all tested and we're all, following very strict protocols with masks. And, if you're not filming, you're wearing a mask, and everyone stays away from each other. Yeah. It's been definitely an odd experience to work during this time because, I've done a lot of movies before COVID, and you just like leave your water bottle down and just,
right.
It's like you don't even realize, how much things have changed, and now everything is like we have to write our names. Just you don't ever want to accidentally pick up someone's water. Not that I'm going around drinking other people's water, but you know what I mean. It's like it's a lot more safe.
So, have things been like shutting down again in LA?
Yes, it's definitely a little slower right now because of the Delta variant and everything.
So a lot of on-camera auditions.
I don't think I've had an in-person audition in almost like 18 months, I would say. I did have one in-person audition, and it was for this commercial, and they actually had us wait in the car, and they would call us to come in, and then it was just like so different than what I'd been used to in the past. And I think that was the only one that I actually did in person, and everything else has been, Zoom or
Right.
self-tape or just an offer.
So you got this movie coming out on Lifetime this Friday. Any other projects that you got coming out that you can tell us?
Yes, I have one that comes out on September 28th. It's called Wanton Want, and it's kind of an indie drama, and that's definitely very different from Party from Hell. It's kind of like a very sad, almost like I would say kind of experimental. Like it's going to be kind of a trippy movie. It's cool. And from what I've seen of it, I think people will hopefully really like it. That has Nicholas Brendan in it, who is Xander on Buffy. And then I play his wife. And then there's this kind of like a love triangle happening. So
Where would that, how can people watch that?
it's going to be premiering on demand. And I believe like if you just go onto YouTube and search Wanton Want, and it's WANTON and then Want, you can just see it. And then it has like a countdown until it premieres.
That's awesome. And lastly, how can the listeners and the viewers find you on social media?
I'm not the best on social media, but I am on Instagram and Twitter. On Instagram, I'm Jackie and then _, I believe, more. And then on Twitter, let me look. I have to check because this is how bad I am with this stuff. I'm on Facebook, Jackie Moore, and let's see. On Twitter, I'm at Moore Jackie and then a _ after Jackie. But I hope
Jackie, this was great. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. This has been so nice, and I wish I was on the East Coast hanging with you out there. But go Red
Someday.
Sox.
Go Red Sox. That's right.